Bayard stepping up in the pocket after having pressure. Find his man deep in stride. Will he go to the house? Yes, he will. Miles Kent Denton. He's the guy for the Demons. That is a 74-yard touchdown reception.
Welcome to the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group. Another episode here in the 2024 season. I'm Jason Pugh, joined as always by the head Demon, head coach Blaine McCorkle, and coach will jump right into the rivalry game at SFA. Odds were against you in a lot of ways. It didn't help when you're out 10 starter, when you're down 10 starters. Yeah. But the fight has been there. It's been a tough first half of the year, but the guys are still hanging in there. And for the first time in a couple of weeks, saw some signs of life, a little different offense, and it turned out to be pretty productive, certainly at times.
It did. You know, it's hard to do that. You're not always looking for the silver lining. Sometimes you just got to call a spade, and they beat us. But we were out 10 starters, as we've talked about. That made things tough. We had to shuffle some bodies around, and we're still doing that this week coming up. So we got to continue to get creative. But there were some things with our offense that did start to spark a little bit, which we were excited about. But when you come out and you get down the hole 24-0 in the first quarter, that's a big hill to climb. When you're playing competition like that, and that's something that just being a young program with a lot of young players, a lot of guys who've never played in this rivalry are just learning what it is. We spent some time this week talking about kind of the history and the tradition of what this was to get guys ready, because a lot of them, 3 or 4 months ago didn't even know this game existed. They didn't even know it was a rivalry. So there's a lot of learning curve with things like that. So I think some of those things probably cause us to come out a little bit slow. Which when you play an emotional rivalry game, conference play like that, is unacceptable. You got to show up ready to play, and that's part of the building and growing process as we go. But you're right, offensively we did have some signs of life. I think it was numerically our most productive game of the year in terms of yards, in terms of plays, in terms of time of possession, which is really, really important. We made a big emphasis on that because we have been putting our defense in such a bind. JT, we've been saying for several weeks now, kind of in-house, that we're going to show up one week and he's going to throw for 300-plus yards and he's just going to take off from there. Well, he did, but unfortunately he got the injury after that. So, that's kind of another kick in the pants there with that. But I was proud of the way that our offense tried to respond to the challenges of the last couple of weeks and get some things done. Too little, too late, but things to build on for sure.
Let's go back before the injury. Was there a point in time in that game where I think those of us watching it and those of us who aren't as in the weeds as you guys are, was there a light bulb moment? It certainly seemed, and I don't know when it was, I don't know if it was the pass to Miles, I don't know if it was something else, but there just seemed to be maybe that moment. He's a redshirt freshman. He had one drive ahead of this season of college experience. So you don't really, he's by far not a veteran, but is there that light bulb moment?
No, I don't know that there was a light bulb moment in the game, but there's been light bulb moments since we got here in the spring. We've been able to watch him every day in practice, all spring, all summer, watched him work out, all preseason through the first 5 games. The first 5 games have been tough for all of us, but seeing the work that he puts in and the things that he does on the field day in, day out, we knew that was something that he was very capable of. So I don't think it surprised us. It was just a matter of time of when it was going to actually happen. And, there were a lot of missed opportunities in the game, too. We dropped a sure first down one time on a sit route that would have added to it. We dropped a touchdown in the end zone that would have put us at 24 because we didn't get points out of that because the ball bounced up and we picked it. One thing about that play, that was a very frustrating play because we were starting to get some momentum and do some things, and that could have shrunk the gap even more with 7 more points. But as we were watching the film, we kind of stopped it and said, well, that's a true freshman center snapping the ball to a redshirt freshman quarterback who's throwing it in the end zone to a redshirt freshman tight end. So all 3 of those guys in that play right there, and there's more on the field, we'll be doing that for the next 3 years together. You look up in 3 years, and those are no-brainer touchdowns. So that's part of the growing pains of the young players. And on that point, we played, I think, 7 freshmen or redshirt freshmen offensively, significant number of snaps, and we played 7 freshmen or redshirt freshmen, a significant number of snaps on defense, and more than that in the special teams. So, those things are hard to work through. You got to take your bumps and your bruises, but big picture, they're encouraging about what's coming down the road. So we just got to keep working, keep getting better, be patient with those guys, and know that better days are ahead. And maybe one of those better days is this week against Commerce.
Bumps and bruises all over the place. We've talked about it. We won't belabor that point. But one thing it does, and you've talked about it, whether it's been redshirt freshmen, whether it's been newcomers, transfers, next man up. And I think we saw for maybe not the first time this year, but you start looking, Ty Moore got involved a little bit more in the offense. John Barr had a big catch down the seam that if the ball's maybe out in front of him, he's got his first touchdown.
Yep.
But those are faces that haven't necessarily been productive. They've been on the field, but you start getting them in production. You start seeing them a little bit more on film. Next man up, and especially for a guy like Ty Moore, it's got to be a little bit special.
Yeah, it is. Ty's a great kid. We have a lot of fun with him. He's got a great personality. He works really hard. He's really talented. He's like a double legacy here. His mom and dad were both great athletes here at Northwestern State. So this is a place that he cares about and has a lot of love and passion for. So he's going to give you everything he's got for the right reason. So was excited to see him go in there and make some plays. But yeah, it truly is a next man up mentality. You know, as I mentioned, we had 10 starters out for the game this past week. We lost a few more in the game. A couple guys will get back, so we'll probably be about the same place this week. You know, 8, 10, maybe 11 guys that'll be game time decisions this week against Commerce. So you got to be ready to go. And you know where our program is right now. Yes, there's drop-offs, but our program is not to a point where our ones are so much farther ahead that there's the huge drop-off that a lot of people see. Everything's pretty relative, and there's a lot of competition, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because it creates competition in practice, and every day you're fighting for reps. It's a bad thing that we need to have a better product on the field when our ones go out there, you know, and then that's something that we've got to continue to improve and develop and grow our program with. So there's definitely work to do there.
When you look on the other side of the ball, one of the guys we sat here a week ago and talked about was Antonio Hall, the job he had done at SEMO, his first career pick. He had 3 pass breakups in that game. The guy who had to start in his place, Troy Santamarina, had to grow up pretty quickly too. He had an end zone deflection there. So again, one of those guys that's getting the reps and building kind of that depth. Whether he comes out this year as a 1 or a 2, like you talked about, the drop off at that point won't be significant going forward.
Yeah, Antonio Hall goes in there starting a week ago as a backup when somebody goes down with an injury. He played a lot of football this year. He definitely had his reps. But then he goes down, and then he's replaced this week against Stephen F. Austin with a redshirt freshman walk-on, Troy Santamarina, who I'm so proud of. He got in there and just fought his tail off, and he worked really hard, and he played well, and he kind of earned his stripes this week. But that's kind of where the depth is catching up to us in the secondary as well. Hopefully this week we get a few guys back. The beauty of that now is Troy's played a whole game at corner by himself, and there's no replacement for experience. He knows what it's like to be in a big game and be in the fight. So all that does is make us better down the road. When his number's called again, he'll be ready, and it may be called this week. You don't know. I mean, he's kind of proved himself. So real proud of what he did on the back end there. And we'll just keep getting better back there and see who gets back.
You know, Isaiah Robinson's a guy that has recovered a couple of fumbles. He's also forced one. It comes into this week tied for the Southland Conference lead. You've got a guy in Cadillac Roan last year who was the FCS statistical champion in forcing fumbles. When it comes to that, obviously recovering fumbles, you have to be around the football. Forcing fumbles, a guy like Charles Tillman, the peanut punch, that's a guy that comes through and makes his own thing. Just some guys have a knack for it.
They do, and to Isaiah's credit, he's in the right place at the right time. He's doing what he's coached to do. He's showing up at the ball when he's supposed to be there, and he's making something happen with effort, intensity, and physicality when he gets there. So he's a guy that has really progressed the last few weeks too, and I'm sure Coach Connor may talk about him a little bit, that we're really, really proud of the player he's turning into. Another guy on the back end that we haven't mentioned, Jeremiah Keppard, got some significant reps this week and was productive, was physical, and making plays, and really, really proud of what he's turned into back there with that secondary unit that's growing up kind of as a mash unit right now. So there's some new hats showing up. But yeah, Isaiah's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's getting better all the time, and hopefully he can get a few more out for us because we definitely like having the ball back.
Yeah, a few extra possessions never hurts anybody.
We'll take them, that's right.
As you look toward Texas A&M Commerce, it's a team that's, I don't want to say in a similar situation, but program-wise, they've got a second-year head coach in Clint Dolzell. So I know you guys got a chance to talk down in San Antonio at the SLC opening drive.
Yep.
Do you see similarities, dissimilarities between the two programs?
I would say both. I would say similarities is we're both in the same place looking for our first win this year. We're both in the same place looking for our first win in a long time. I think they beat McNeese last year pretty handily. That was their only win last year. They don't have one yet this year. I think where the similarities are too is in our kind of pre-conference season schedule is very similar. We played 2 FBSs, 2 top 25 teams, and a SWAC. They played 1 FBS, 2 top 25 teams, and a SWAC. And now they played 1 conference game. They had a bye week, so we're 1 game ahead of them. So our schedules are very, very similar so far. Their scores are a little bit closer than ours have been. I don't think it would be out of line to say they probably would be the favorite in this game, even though they've not won a game yet either. But all that stuff kind of goes out the window. You got to go play, and we're searching hard for that first win. So I think this is going to come down to who wants to get out of that cellar the first, and who's going to come out swinging and fighting. And I think this will be a really, really good football game. I think this is one people want to show up and watch because it could be exciting. This could be an overtime football game. Prairie View beat us on the last play of the game. Prairie View beat Grambling in overtime. Grambling beat Commerce in overtime. So the four of us are all right there together. So if you want to match scores, this is a last play of the game. You know, if you kind of look at all that, so it should be exciting. I think me and Coach Dalzell are different in style and approach. He's a good guy. I really liked him. He was a tremendous player at Commerce. I think he probably still has a lot of their passing records. Had a really neat career in arena ball, which that's a little different. So our approach and style is probably a little bit different naturally because of our history. But I think he's doing a good job trying to get that program right, and his kids play hard, and they give you some things to look at for sure.
No forward motion in this game, like the
That's
arena
right.
ball.
That's
You
right.
can't get the head start there.
Play with 11 and you can't go forward. That's right.
So but it'll be interesting, and it'll be a little different. Not your first home game, not be your first conference home game here at Northwestern, but a 2 o'clock kickoff. So a little bit different. Have to get everybody used to getting out a little bit earlier.
That's right.
And just remind them it's not 6 o'clock. It's
That's
2
right.
o'clock.
2 o'clock kickoff, and we need people there. You know, these kids, they're fighting, they're working hard, and they want to put out a good product. And hopefully the people here in Natchitoches and the students will keep supporting them and keep showing up. Our first 2 home games, we had great crowds, and we'll need one again this week.
I think it goes without saying that there is a chance, not a chance, but when you do have that kind of atmosphere, that it is a 12th man. I mean, it's not a cliche. You know, A&M has it trademarked, and the Seahawks tried to take it from them, but there is a benefit when you're at home to having a crowd like that.
Oh, no doubt. And our first 2 home games we've had this year, I think the atmosphere has been incredible. You know, we played 2 FBS teams in Tulsa and South Alabama that had, you know, bigger crowds. There's 16,000 people there, whatever. And then SEMO and Stephen F., I'd take our 2 crowds over there as any day of the week. You know, I think our atmosphere has been incredible. The band's great. The crowd involvement's been great. The students have been great. I just encourage all those people who've been coming to keep coming, keep hanging there with us, because good days are coming. And you don't want to decide the one day not to come be the day we get a win and you weren't there to see it. So you want to be there when we get that first one and celebrate with us.
We'll do that, and we'll see you Thursday at Merci beaucoup. If you're in town, Quarterback Club lunch in there. Thanks, Blaine McCorkle, for taking his time. We'll come back with Northwestern State Defensive Coordinator Matt Connor as the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group, rolls on here on YouTube.
Super One Foods is proud to be named the official grocery store of the Northwestern State University Demons. No matter where you gather to watch the game, we've got everything you need at Super One Foods, all at super low prices. Plus, you can order online and enjoy same-day pickup with our convenient curbside service. Talk about a game changer. Score big when you shop at Super One Foods, your official NSU Demons grocery store.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group. Joined now by Northwestern State Defensive Coordinator Matt Connor. And Coach, we'll jump right into the Stephen F. Austin, the game last week. It's never easy to go on the road. It's never easy to go on the road to open conference against a rival. And then you're basically running out of mass unit. You're not where you want to be in terms of health. So let's try to glean some of the positive off of that. Yeah. You got a lot of guys getting experience these first couple of weeks.
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's no secret that we had some guys out last week, and we'll continue to have some guys out this week. Getting a few back, but you know, it's all about how you look at it. You know, there's nothing we can do about that. We're going to get those guys back as soon as we can. Cal, our trainer, does a great job of getting them back healthy and getting them back on the field as fast as we can. But you know, in the meantime, it's kind of cliche and it's kind of coach's talk, but next man up. But that's truly what it is, because you really have no other option. We still got to play the game, and you know, Stephen F., you know, they're not going to feel sorry for us that we have some guys out, and so it does. It allows some guys that wouldn't naturally get that experience and get in the game and get those reps under their belt. They get an opportunity to do that. So later down the road, now we have a little bit more experienced player on the sideline.
Well, even later into the year, yeah. A guy like Troy Santa Marina is a guy that comes to mind, and Antonio Hall had done a really good job growing up. We talked with Coach McCorkle about kind of JT Fayard maybe having some of those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Probably felt the same way about Antonio as he's gone through this first year, but he's out last week, and you go to another redshirt freshman in Troy Santa Marina, and he held up about as well as you can in the situation he was in.
Yeah, well, Antonio started the year as a backup, and he fought, and due to an injury, he ends up finding himself as a starting corner. Really took off with that, did a great job, and I mentioned last week he was kind of growing up right in front of our eyes, and then he gets banged up, and so we go to the next guy, and Troy, as a redshirt freshman walk-on, and he did a great job. He did not back down from the challenge at all. He went out there, and did exactly what you should ask a corner to do, is just go out there and play with a certain level of confidence. Play fearless, have a short memory, and he did that. Had a really good break up in the back of the end zone where he just fought the ball all the way to the ground, and he's been in that situation in practice quite a bit, and now as we get some guys back, like I mentioned earlier, we get some guys back off that injury report. Now we know we have a corner, an extra corner that's been in the game and been in that moment before.
Especially for a team that, unfortunately, the last couple of weeks has not had a lot of healthy corners. Like you said, you texted me Thursday, I may be up.
Yeah,
I was
that's
gonna
right.
start stretching on Thursday.
I hope you had your cleats.
Either that or Cal was going to get a call the first play on Saturday because it wasn't going to last very long if you had to go to me. But those guys, and we've talked about him before, but Caesar McGee, the job he's done, coming in and, the play at South Alabama where he ends up getting hurt after running a guy down at the 2 or 3. He had another situation where he ran a guy down Saturday.
Yeah.
He's growing because he's a veteran, but he is not brand new, but almost brand new to that position.
Yeah, he's a football player. I don't think there's many positions you could put Caesar on the field and he wouldn't figure out how to be effective. And I got so much respect and so happy for him. The way, with his backstory and his history and what he's going through right now is awesome. He's a competitor. Plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. You mentioned the effort play. He did give up one touchdown in Stephen F. What people are going to fail to see is the play right before that. He runs 75 yards down the field to save the touchdown. He was the last guy, and great effort play, ran him down, and that's him. He competes, and he takes it personal, and I really appreciate that out of him.
Let's go back. He was a receiver. He had 8 starts at receiver a couple of years ago. How does that affect, or how much of a bonus is that when you're shifting positions like that? Yeah, I mean, because we're talking to a guy that was an offensive lineman and now is a defensive coordinator, so it's got to be some similarities in there.
It is. You carry, I'm sure, if you ask Caesar himself, he carries a lot of the knowledge that he had from when he was a receiver to just flipping over on the other side and covering the same routes and seeing the same routes he used to run and understanding where every coverage has a weakness. There's not the perfect coverage. If there was, we'd be in it every play. But he understands that because he's been seeing it from the other side his entire career. And so I'm sure he absolutely taps into that knowledge and that experience of playing receiver to help himself play corner. But at the end of the day, again, he's just a football player and he's a competitor. And that's his biggest edge right now.
Another new face that had a maybe not a productive game numbers-wise, but Tyler Lewis up front. Kind of rotating in. Seemed like he was in there for a few more snaps than we've seen him, but effective, kind of getting some push up the middle. And that's something that as this team, as it works through the injuries and everything, obviously the less time a quarterback has, the better.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot about our secondary being a little banged up. We had 2 starting linebackers out, and, that allowed us to, really kind of look at our personnel and who's the next best guy to go onto the field that allows us to continue to play within our scheme and in our system. And Tyler Lewis kind of ended up being that guy. And so we would get him out there and somewhat of a 4-down look. And he did a really, really good job in there mixing the front up and really, really muddying that up for our linebackers.
Speaking of those guys, Landry Huddleston, I think we may have talked about this before, but he is the one player that came with you guys from Belhaven. And to see him get in and have a start and be productive in that start, it's got to be a good feeling because I can't imagine something we don't always talk about and people don't talk about is when coaches leave and they leave players behind, there's still those relationships of 2 and 3 years that you've built with those guys, and it can't be easy for you guys in that situation, but for him to come along has to make it a little bit easier to continue to watch his growth.
Yeah, it does. You're right. There's never a good time to leave a program. Especially if you're having success in that program. That makes it, quite honestly, that probably makes it a little harder to leave a program when you're doing well. Sometimes you're asked to leave if you're not doing well. But it does, and for Landry to come with us, and we didn't ask him to come. I think I can say that openly. We didn't ask him to come. He approached us and was, "Hey, Coach, I believe in what we're doing. I believe in Coach McCorkle and his program and his vision." And I want to be a part of it, whether, no matter where it's at. And that really speaks volume to his buy-in. He had a great night. Landry is, I've mentioned this before on this show, Landry plays the game the way the game is supposed to be played. He plays it fast. He plays at full speed. He really only knows how to play one way, and that showed up a little bit on Saturday.
Well, as we look ahead, we've done looking back now, we'll look ahead to Texas A&M Commerce, and was speaking with Coach McCorkle, and he talked about Coach Dalzell and his arena ball experience. Good news is you don't have to adjust for any forward motion.
That's right.
Pre-snap. But what do you see, without, obviously, we don't want to give away too much, but when you look at Commerce, what do you see in terms of maybe some of the first six offenses? You played a varied, mixed bag. You've had a spread here and a running offense that runs at a top 15 level, a couple of passing offenses that are top 10 level. And, when you look toward this Commerce team as we get home, what does that look like?
Well, there's no forward motion, but if he wants to take a few offensive guys off the field, we're completely okay with that. We're going to keep our 11, obviously. They're, they play a two-quarterback system. They played two quarterbacks for most of the year. They've got a running back in number 21 who, with what film we've watched so far, we watched pretty much all of it. Still, the first couple of games we're still kind of working through. But he's impressive. He's impressed me. He runs the ball really, really hard. Has decent vision, and I think he really jumps off the screen at me with his effort and how hard he runs the ball. You really got to put your nose on him, wrap him up, and we're going to have to team tackle him because he'll break a tackle just with his effort. They are. It's interesting. Last week you could see a little bit of the arena ball style of offense. They looked a little different last week versus Southeastern than they have in previous weeks. And I think what they do is a good job of finding out how to attack defenses and going in with a game plan. It's not the same thing every week. You turn on the Grambling film and they were big, 12 personnel and running off tackle. You turn on the Southeastern film and it was a lot of five wide, some quarterback run and quick game. They go in and they look at the film just like we all do, and then they build a plan. We'll see. Obviously Saturday, we'll find out pretty quick what their plan is, and go to work on it.
That two quarterback system, though, in some ways, when the last 2 weeks or the 2 weeks prior to Stephen F. that we talked about, where you had a Weber State team that was top 15 nationally rushing, and you turn around and go to SEMO and they're top 10 nationally passing. Stephen F. was kind of balanced in that you kind of feel like this all leads into when you've got the two quarterback system, because I'm sure it's not just, okay, one's in, it's a run, one's it's pass.
No, it's not. And I'll be completely honest and transparent. I have no idea why they go two quarterbacks. We've tried to study it. We figured it. We've dug into it, and one of the first questions I might ask him after the game is why, because they're very, very similar. One doesn't do one thing real well, and the other one does another thing real well. They both just kind of run the offense. And to your point, their offense really doesn't change that much depending on which one's in. It might truly just be a quarterback battle, and they're trying to get one to beat out the other, and it hasn't happened yet.
Waiting for that hand to get hot and ride him.
Right.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time as always, and get some of those MASH guys back and get back to looking like you're healthy. And the less of Cal Paduloma we see on the field for the Demons is a good thing. We love Cal, but happy not to see him out there.
Keep him away from us.
Not a good thing when he's on the field. As always, Coach, appreciate your time. We'll be back with offensive coordinator Norman Joseph as the Demon Huddle rolls along, presented by Cross Financial Group here on YouTube.
Whether it's in the trailer, behind the camera, or on the air, NSU has a place for you. Learn the ins and outs of an ESPN broadcast while getting a full-fledged education in sports media or broadcast journalism. Northwestern State University. New media, journalism, and communication arts. Learn more at nsula.edu/new media.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial Group here on YouTube. Joined now by Northwestern State Offensive Coordinator Norman Joseph, back after a 1-week absence. We did appreciate having Justin Williamson here, but good to have Coach Joseph back. And Coach, will jump right in. I think maybe certainly the second half of that Stephen F. game, more of what you want to see from the offense and what this offense can be.
It was really exciting. I thought once we got past the first quarter, and it was a devastating quarter to us in every facet of the game. But once we got past that first quarter and got into the second quarter and started opening up some areas, throwing the ball downfield, it looked like our quarterbacks played better, our receivers responded to the throws, and offensive line was doing a great job protecting.
We talked about it with Coach McCorkle. He was talking about a play in the end zone where Joe Moreland nearly came down with kind of a highlight reel touchdown. And the way it went, it ends up being an interception. But he pointed out something that I don't think a lot of people thought about. True freshman center, redshirt freshman quarterback, redshirt freshman tight end. As you look forward, and we know coaches don't want to look ahead. You're looking at Saturday right now. You're not worried about next year or 2 years down the road. But when you do look at that, the reps these guys are getting, it's got to benefit their growth exponentially.
No, absolutely. And if you look at as our season has progressed, and this is not new. I've been down this stretch before throughout my career, and going into a program that's new staff, new players, new terminology, and it takes offensively, it takes about half a season for things to start gelling, and I felt like our guys did that, and so here we are in the second half of the season, and now we got players that are getting some valuable experience to move us forward in the future as well.
Well, we don't often talk about the offensive line on here or most places. Typically they're not noticed until something goes wrong. But let's point out some of the good things there. And we talked about Logan Brady, the freshman center that comes in. Thought he had a really solid game in terms of just operational stuff, which it seems simple, the 5-6 yard shotgun snap, but when it goes wrong, it's really no. But I didn't see any of those, so he had to step in a tough role and seemed like he handled himself and acquitted himself very well.
Yeah, we're real proud of Logan. I felt like he had a great ball game. He did some things that because he's such a great athlete, he's able to do some things that fits his skill level. And even though we wish for that position to be a little bit heavier, that's coming. That will come with age, will come with experience, come with being in this program, and just part of the maturing factor. But what a great job he did for us throughout the ball game. I felt like our offensive line opened up some holes for our running backs. Definitely protected JT as he was back there throwing, and then it just all of a sudden you're doing some things up front. That's the key to winning, is having an offensive line that's doing their job, and then the quarterback's got to make plays, and everybody else has to do their job as well.
And it certainly seemed like once that offensive line gelled a little bit more, of course your middle guys knew at that point it's tough maybe to you got a couple other guys that are kind of in and out of the lineup as well. So the gelling part, and it certainly looked like after that first quarter, and I don't know, I talked with Coach McCorkle about this, and he said they've been light bulb moments kind of throughout the time you guys have been here. But from an on-field standpoint, was there a moment, did you feel Saturday night where JT Fayard settled in and maybe became more comfortable?
I felt like that we had Cortez Hawkins in there, and he went out with an injury. When JT came in, we threw a deep pass. I mean, it was third and long, third and forever. Seemed like we've kind of lived in third and forever this season. And but there was a third down throw, and he completed to Corey King. And from that point on, it was just like, okay, we got new life. We're out of the hole. We're moving the ball, or we got a chance to move the ball. And so we just kind of opened things up and let those guys utilize their talent and skill and play ball, and it paid off for us.
We've talked about mash units. We've talked about guys being out. We've talked about next man up. But Corey King's a guy the last couple of weeks getting back on the field, and we saw a little bit more of what he could do. And the big play's been there for him since he's been here. He's got nearly a 60-yard touchdown catch on his resume. He's got some bigger games in terms of catching number of passes. But it looked like he gives you maybe that compliment to Miles Kent-Denton in terms of being another guy that can stretch the field.
Well, and you're right. And so that's what I was going to say. He's got the speed to get deep. We have utilized that in the 2 ball games that he's played, and but also he's not afraid to catch the ball in traffic. He showed that the other night, and then once he catches the ball, he's got tremendous running skills. And so you put him in the secondary. Put him in a one-on-one situation, it's advantage Northwestern football, and so we've been real proud of his play.
Zay Davis was about a step away from having a big highlight. I mean, he had a 23-yard gain. It would have probably been about 60 or 70 if he gets through the step, but that's a guy, stepping up a level from junior college to Division I. He seems to be finding his footing as well.
Real proud of Xavier. What a great talent, great skill player. Can catch the ball out of the backfield as well as run the ball in the middle or get outside. And so we knew from in the spring that he had this breakaway ability and could do that. And I was so hoping he was going to break that long run. The guy had a diving tackle and got him by the shoestring, but Xavier's playing better and better every week. And it's a different league. It's a different conference. It's Division I football. And so he is meeting that challenge every week, and we're sure proud of his play.
Talked with Coach McCorkle. You mentioned Ty Moore had a big game, a couple of big catches, and a effort guy to get first down on one of those slant routes he ran. All right, I'm going to go back because I don't have it in my head, and I haven't checked this. Was Glenn Moore here when you were here at some point?
I coached Glenn, yeah. So had an opportunity to coach Glenn Moore. What a great talent he was, and so proud to have the opportunity to coach his son and be able to work with Ty. But you're right, Ty had 3 catches. 2 of them were for first downs. That is critical. You just don't know how important that is to keep a drive going, to be able to have a quarterback and a receiver that you can go to that's going to make a key catch and continue a drive. And so Ty did that twice. The first catch, he was just inches away from a first down, but it put us in a position to have a chip shot field goal, and real proud of his play. He is adding so much to our offense right now.
So let's go back. Let's go back to Glenn Moore and Ty Moore. What are the similarities from what you remember? And what are the differences, aside from maybe a little size?
Well, Glenn, both of them great personalities, and you can see that by what Glenn is doing now in his coaching career. And so he's able to attract people. He coaches women's softball at Baylor, and so, but he's able to attract folks. That's what Ty Moore does. He attracts people. And when Glenn was here, people played better when he was in the game. Ty Moore's in the game, people play better. Everybody elevates their game, and those 2 guys are special.
We can thank Glenn Moore for Jenny Fuller, Northwestern State's new softball coach, played for him at Baylor.
Yes.
More ties to the Moore family, which will come also homecoming weekend when Janice Miller Moore, Ty's mother, goes into the In-Club Hall of Fame 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
As we turn to Commerce, we've talked a lot about Clint Dalzell with Coach Connor and Coach McCorkle being the offensive guy that he is. So defensively, I mean, when you look at Commerce, again, not too much of the game plan here, but what do you see?
Very athletic group of players. They do a lot of things as well. Their fronts change quite often. Their coverages are very challenging. They like to play man coverage, and so they show that. They're going to challenge our receivers, and it's going to be a real tough ball game. We know that, and so here's a team that's coming in that wants the victory. Here's a team that's at home that wants the victory, and it should be a great ball game.
Yeah, we'll see. Matt Connor was lobbying maybe for them to play offensive rules with arena football, which are, I guess, a few less than 11, but 11 on 7 or 11 on 8 wouldn't hurt you either.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me at all.
All right. Well, Coach Joseph, thank you for your time. I want to thank everyone for watching another episode of the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group. We'll see you next week right here on YouTube.